talking about the GCI 2013 Gold Striker at California's Great America in Santa Clara, USA. This roller coaster has a maximum height of 108.2 feet, a speed of 53 miles per hour, where you'll go through a ride course of 3,000 feet, 197 feet of track, providing for a duration of around 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That is, of course, including the chain lift hill. So this roller coaster is pretty good. So let's talk about your general experience. So it's right next to the front entrance of the park. That is, of course, if you enter through the main gate, and it is just right there. It's pretty much the first thing you see, along with some of their other awesome roller coasters. But yeah, this is pretty much the first thing you see. That awesome drops, and all the tunnels and near-miss elements. You see all that from the parking lot and stuff. You'll walk into the park, and it's to your right. It's the first thing that you can walk to, really. And this ride is loosely themed around prospectors. That's why it's called Gold Striker, but you know, it's a Cedar Fair, so they never go over the top with theming, which I don't really mind. Then you'll get to pick your row. The day I went, the wait was only 5 to 15 minutes maximum for this ride, and basically the whole park. But I bet if you were to go on a longer row, or a longer day, I'm not sure if they would let you pick your row, but you know, I could be wrong. So personally, I prefer the front row, which is very unlikely. Almost 100% of the time, I prefer back row, and later on I'll tell you why. But let's just talk about your ride experience. So you'll roll out of the station. The station has normal bins and everything. There's nothing to rave about here. And you'll turn right and kind of just go through this little pre-drop. I generally don't like pre-drops. I think they're kind of stupid, but you know, it's GCI and they always have pre-drops. So go up this lift and you have that kind of camera. And then you're going to go into this drop. And what's interesting about this drop, and really the coaster as a whole, is that this drop and the coaster is enclosed. This is indoors. Now, it's not an indoor roller coaster, but it is enclosed, so you get a nice near-miss element effect. It's pretty cool how it's in the dark, which is pretty cool. I wrote this at night, and that's really awesome. So, if you're riding this during the day, it's just a nice feature. And then the drop in general is great. GCI has some awesome roller coaster drops, which makes them my second favorite coaster maker for a reason. Their drops are just really great. So, following that, you'll go into this pretty long bank turn. Yeah, you'll just kind of curve around. You'll curve in throughout the structure. Following that, you'll go into a little airtime pop into this bank turn, where you'll go into this little tunnel, which is pretty fun. Following that, you'll go to this near-miss element airtime effect, and you'll just keep banking around, get a little bit of airtime here and there. You'll go back into the structure, get more airtime, just go into the back overbank turn, which is pretty fun. These are pretty intense elements. Following that, you'll go into this pretty straight section, and then you're going to go into a double down, which this double down felt very rough to me. One thing that they could improve with this coaster is the smoothness, and that one double down, which is really, really jerked you. And then you're going to go through this long bank turn into a little airtime pop, a couple more little sideways airtime moments back and throughout the structure, and finish up. So, even though it's not too long of a ride, it packs in a ton of elements, including a lot of airtime and a lot of elements that are very intense. By far my favorite factor on this ride is how it manages to achieve airtime without having very defined hills. And by that I mean that it doesn't just go up and down. By far my biggest issue with Mystic Timbers is that it's not very unique. It just goes up and down, and you do get airtime, but on Gold Striker you're going every which direction, and you get airtime even on just parts you wouldn't expect to get airtime. Now, I said I would touch upon this, and I actually like the front row on this coaster, and if you have seen any of my other reviews, you'll know that about 95% of the time, I like the back row more. I am just a backseat kind of guy. I love airtime and I love intensity, and the back row usually has that. However, on Gold Striker, I prefer the front seat, and here's why. Gold Striker is a rough ride. There's no doubting it. I've heard that it's running a bit rougher this year in 2018, which is when, of course, I wrote it, so that could be why. But yes, there's no denying that Gold Striker is a very rough ride. But I don't honestly mind it. That's why on a single ride basis, if I only had one ride on Gold Striker, I would choose the back seat. But if I was staying at the park for a few hours, which I did, then I would rather ride the back seat or the front seat a couple of times, if that makes sense. I prefer the front seat if I'm going to ride it multiple times, but on a single ride basis, the back seat's better. So it really depends on what your opinion of this is. If you're going to marathon this, then you probably want to pick, front or second seat. But if you're just going to get one ride, then yeah, you better go for that back seat. Why do I like the back seat more on a single rider basis? Well, you already know why. You get a little bit more airtime. The drop is far superior in the back than in the front. And then, of course, it's a bit more intense, but that's, just a little addedness. And then one reason I like this coaster too is it provides a really awesome night ride. You know, coasters tend to loosen up during the night and go just a tad bit faster, and Gold Striker definitely does that. Also, the drop is fantastic, and that pitch dark is just really awesome. And generally, this coaster is unique. So at the end of every coaster review, I have to give this a score, and usually I give coasters like a B, or sometimes if I'm very nice, an A minus. And I'm going to give Gold Striker a B plus, and here's why. It's not my favorite GCI. I like it more than Mystic Timbers, but I don't like it more than Renegade. Because Renegade, in my opinion, that's a world-class roller coaster, and everyone seems to overlook it. And Gold Striker isn't overrated, but I don't think it's the best GCI. It's still very great, though, and I hope that you get to ride it one day. My name is Coaster Cupcake, and I'll catch you all next time. Thanks, guys.